Alright, today I'm going to do a general review of Reolink security cameras and NVRs, or at least the ones I actually own. Alright, now let me first say I have been using Reolink products for it's been about May 2020 is when I got my first Reolink camera. Now let me show you the camera I originally purchased. Where is it? Because I have it open. I originally had four. Well, originally I bought two of these, and these were Wi-Fi solar powered cameras. They have a battery inside them, so they do work at night, but they will not record 24 hours a day, obviously, because it would run the battery dead. So they have a battery inside and a solar panel. The solar panel, of course, keeps it charged or charges it during the day, and then it's motion activated recording. So the little motion sensor is on all the time, and whenever it detects motion, then it will record what's going on. All in all, it's not bad. Altogether, I had bought 6 of these. Now, I don't own any anymore, but that's because I moved on to PoE cameras. They're just all around better. But these, for simplicity and ease of install, these are, entry level. These are what most people probably go to first, simply because they're just super easy to install. You don't have to worry about trying to run Ethernet cable, put holes in your walls, and all that stuff to run cable through. Now, my brother, he actually, because before I moved to where I am now, I was actually living with my brother for a while because several years ago my house caught on fire, and that's a whole big other story. So, but let me go back here now. Let me show you those Argus Eco cameras because I still have access to all of his cameras. Alright, this is his property, and this is a live feed right now. Front porch, anyone who's seen my channel, you've seen these video feeds before, probably. These are, like I said, the Argus Eco battery powered, solar charged Wi-Fi cameras. They work fine. Picture quality is okay. It's good enough, and simple enough to install. And if you wanted to look back at a recording, all you do is select that camera, you go up to playback, and then there obviously are no 24-hour recordings, so you're not going to see anything on that. But let me go back to yesterday where there's going to be some motion captures, and let me just play one. For some reason it picked up that car going by. Now if I was to actually download the video from this, the quality is going to be better. The frame rate is going to be 15 frames a second instead of what you're seeing here, which is like 5 frames a second. But like I said, this is not bad. It is what it is. It's a halfway decent entry level camera. And during playback, you can have up to 4 video feeds in your playback. Like, I'll go ahead and put all 4 of his cameras into the playback. And see how it adds a timeline down here for each individual one. That way, like, I'll set it right here and then start playing. This one's playing right now, and as the timeline goes down and it gets to another camera that has a motion activated event, then that camera will start playing. So it will help you see what's going on. Now, see, this one had a motion activated event, and this was probably triggered by the sun, because you do get a lot of false triggers with these type of motion activated cameras. but still not bad. Records everything to an SD card, or you can use their cloud service where it will upload in real time any trigger event to the cloud. That way, if somebody was to, like run up and take your camera or destroy your camera, that event is recorded to the cloud, and you can still figure out who did it, even though you don't have access to the SD card anymore. Alright, now let me go back here. Let me turn off those Wi-Fi cameras of my brother's, and right now you're seeing basically 5 different cameras here, even though you see 6 video feeds. This right here, this feed and this feed look the same, but they're not. This feed is a 1080p feed that's zoomable. This right here is a 4K feed that is not zoomable. Both of these are the same camera. These 2 feeds are attached to the Reolink Trackmix camera. And the Trackmix camera, let me show you the camera. It's right here. It has 2 lenses. One of them, I believe the one on the left is the zoom lens, and the one on its left, our right, is the zoom lens, and this one is the 4K lens. This one pan, tilts, and zooms. Alright. It also has auto tracking. Now, let me put the 4K feed here. Now, you're not going to see any difference in preview because the preview quality is on these is, I think, 512p. If I was to click the pan TZ icon, now you can see I have the ability to pan and tilt, but I don't have the ability to zoom with this one. No zoom available. Now, if I was to go to the 1080p feed and then click on that, then now I have a zoom. Now let me show you the zoom. The zoom is only a 6x zoom, and it's not even an actual 6x zoom. It's a what they call a hybrid zoom. I will explain that to you here in a minute. Let me put this camera to something a little bit further away, and we'll just see how well it zooms. I'll try to center up the garbage can, and then I'm going to zoom in on it. Now I'm going to go all the way to 6x. So it does have a decent zoom, especially for a small property like this. 6x is really all you would ever need. Alright, now let me try to explain what the hybrid zoom is. Because a lot of people, I've heard them explain it, and they didn't really explain it in a way that made sense to me. But once I got the camera, I could understand what's going on. Now let me move over here so that part of this camera is being blocked by this concrete pillar. This is the best way I figured out to show you what's actually happening. Alright, now right now we are watching the 1080p feed, but we're actually watching the video from the 4K camera. It will make sense here in a minute. Watch, I'm gonna zoom in up to 2x. I think it's a little bit further. Watch, right now I'm zooming in just a little bit at a time, one click at a time. I think it's 2.7 is where it changes over. Alright, did you see that change? Right now, we're actually looking at the feed through the 1080p lens. I go back one zoom level and we're still looking through the 4K lens. Best I can figure what's actually going on. And if Reolink wants to clarify, feel free. Right now, we are digitally zooming the 4K camera. And then once we reach 2.7, then it switches over to the 1080p camera. And the 1080p camera, this is the 1080p camera zoomed all the way out. And then it actually just zooms in the rest of the way, which is basically 6x. So the 1080p camera is actually, when it's zoomed all the way out, it's like 2.7 zoom compared to the 4K camera. And then it will zoom to 6x. It's just a more narrow lens to begin with. But they use the hybrid zoom to switch over between the 1080p zoom lens and the 4K digital zoom that only goes up to like 2.6x zoom. And they can get by with doing that because 4K is a higher resolution. And if you was to go from like 1x zoom to 6x zooms like that, you don't even really notice that it happens, but it clearly is. Now, in terms of, let me set this back to the monitor point. You basically you can program in your monitor point, and when you click return to your monitor point, it will just automatically go back to whatever your monitor point is. And you can tell it right here, interval. You could say you want it to automatically return after 120 seconds is what I have it set at. Alright. Today it's a rainy day. You can see that it's raining in the background. And I want you to look at the difference in colors between these cameras. The 1080p feed is obviously, like I said before, it's the actual zoom feed. Now right now it's auto tracking cars, but I mostly have it set this way so I can see when somebody's getting ready to arrive here, because I'm expecting company. Alright, but look how much vibrant, I guess you could say, this RLC 810A looks. Same way with the RLC 510A. Now I can tell you, this right here, the Trackmix, is the more realistic looking image. This looks more like how it looks with my eyes if I go outside. And this looks, bright and vivid. This definitely way more realistic. And quite frankly, to my eyes, even sitting here, it looks better than this. One thing I can say for sure about the Trackmix camera, it has a few issues. And some of the issues is the tracking isn't perfect, but I think a lot of those things will iron out in future firmware updates. Because I've had some issues where like a car would be coming down the road like this, and then for some reason the camera would track left. And I think it's because if a car comes down like this and it looks similar enough to this car, then all of a sudden it loses track of it and thinks this car is the one it was tracking. And also I've had issues where it was panned to the right, and whenever it turned back to this guard position right here, it saw this car, and because the camera was panning, it detected that car is moving, so it kind of zoomed in on it. Like I said, some of those things will probably be ironed out in the future with future firmware updates. But so far, this Trackmix is my favorite camera. It looks the best in terms of realism and the accurate picture um, quality compared to the RLC 810, which is another 810A, which is another 4K camera, and this one, which is a 1440p or 5 megapixel camera, which is the RLC 510A. But I mean, realistically, all of them look halfway decent, except for maybe the E1, which is a super cheap camera. But that's all I really need for watching the back door. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say at this point. Now, the image quality isn't bad, and it's definitely overcast and rainy. So there you go. Alright, I'm going to make this part very brief. What you're looking at right now is the monitor I have hooked up to the Reolink NVR. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this image through a camera instead of from direct video captures, because I don't have an HDMI video capture device. I used to, but it quit working on me. Alright, now the layout on this is pretty much identical to the Reolink app. There is a few differences, and in some ways this makes the NVR layout makes more sense. You use it with a mouse just like you would anything else, and the Reolink NVR I have is the RL36, which has 3 SATA drive ports in it, so you can put 3 hard drives or 3 SATA SSDs, and I believe each hard drive can be up to 16 terabytes, so that's a lot of storage. And in my case, I only have one 1 terabyte SSD in it, so that gives me about 3 days worth of 24-hour recording, which is really all I need, although I do plan on upgrading this to probably 6 terabytes, where I'm going to have 3 2 terabyte SSDs. Because whenever you have to transfer a file from the NVR to your computer, it seems to work smoother whenever you have SSDs in the NVR. Alright, the layout is pretty much similar. If you want to zoom in on one of these, you got your controls down here, you can zoom in, it automatically goes full screen. Same, very similar in the way it works to the Reolink web Windows client. Alright, you can have access to all of these. If you right click, you can go to your backup. If you want to copy files from this onto a thumb drive, because on the front of the NVR you have a thumb drive, a USB port that you can plug a thumb drive into. And for playbacks, you just click on the playback. You can select up to 4 camera feeds. Now the only setback for this RL36 NVR is that you cannot play back multiple streams that are 4K at the same time. But if I want to play back the carport and the backyard at the same time, I can do that, because those are less than 4K. Now with the other NVRs that they have, you can play back up to 4 streams that are 4K at the same time, but with this you can't. But I'm just going to choose those 2 and click apply, and it will bring up both feeds. Now if I can actually add let me stop this. I can actually add another one to it as well. I can add the kitchen to it because it's less than 4K. And now I can see 3 video feeds at the same time. But if I was to add one of the 4K feeds, it's going to tell me I can't, because only one 4K feed on this particular NVR is allowed to be played back at a time. So if I wanted to play back one of the 4K feeds, I have to turn off the rest of them and then click apply. And now I can play back the 4K feed. But like I said, on the other NVRs that they have, because I think they only currently have 3 NVRs that they are selling, and the other 2 you can play back 4K feeds, multiple 4K feeds. I'm not going to get much into this. The setup on this is very intuitive. You won't have any problems trying to set it up. As far as how it's connected to the network, right now I just have a single LAN port going from a network switch to this NVR. The cameras are not attached directly to this NVR. This NVR only needs to be connected to the network. It finds the cameras automatically. You can have about 10 cameras set up with this NVR connected like that. But if you have more than that amount of cameras, then you're going to need to put a power or PoE switch on each of the 4 Ethernet ports on the back of the NVR. That way you can spread your cameras over multiple ports essentially. And this camera or this NVR can handle up to 36 cameras at a time, but that's only if you use the ports on the back going directly to PoE switches. The way I have it set up, between 8 and 10 cameras is all I can handle. But I'm only using 5 at the moment, so I'm good. Alright, I got one more test I want to perform with this Reolink Trackmix camera, and then I'm just going to show you some full quality videos that I downloaded from the NVR. That way you're not having to see it stream through this Windows client. That way you can get a better idea about the quality. Alright, this test will be what I call the eye test. On this garbage can right here, I have an eye chart. And it's a standard eye chart. The letters are it's just like what you see whenever you go to the doctor and get your eyes checked. The garbage can is it's actually within a few inches of being 62 feet away from the camera. And right now, you can't really see a whole lot through this interface because, quite frankly, you're seeing a lower resolution version of all these all these cameras anyway. So, right now, I'm going to actually switch over to the actual downloaded video. And we're going to see what it looks like at full quality. And we're going to look at it with it zoomed all the way out, and then with it zoomed in digitally to the point to which it switches over to the 1080p telephoto lens. And then we're going to zoom in all the way and see what we can see. Okay, kitty kitty. Here's my PoE switch inside a watertight utility box. It's certainly not the most professional install or most secure, but it does the job. And also, if someone walked up to this box and plugged their laptop into the switch using the Ethernet cable, the network would block access to them, to the network, because all new devices must be approved by the network administrator, which, of course, is me. I have the PoE switch, power, and LAN going through the wall and down to the box, where the PoE switch then connects to all the cameras. This was my first ever install, and there are some things I would certainly do more securely and better. The next time I go about doing this, I may upgrade this in the future. But it's better than it was.